And if you're tired of all that nonsense, why not try Fragments of Silicon?
All right, welcome to another installment of Fragments of Silicon. I'm your host, Adam. Joining me, as always, the regular crew. Let's get to the news. Petty, let's start off with you since you have things to vent about.
Yeah, so I had my hearing yesterday for my SSI, and they've decided that they want to send my medical records to an independent doctor, so for their opinion on it. So that basically puts this back at minimum 2 more months, possibly more. So that's fun.
Oh, God. That's.
Going at the speed of government.
Sounds like it.
But aside from that, we found out last week that my mom has a full thickness rotator cuff tear, so she will need surgery. So that's fun.
Mm. How did she sustain such an injury?
When she was at work, she was walking to lunch and I guess stepped in something sticky on the floor and fell right on her right arm.
Mm. How
Mhm.
lawsuity?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Like,
Eh,
so, yeah.
so yeah, that she sees the specialist tomorrow. So hopefully this one doesn't take as long to heal as the other arm did.
How the first one take?
Over 6 months.
Shit.
She's already
You know,
driving us insane.
I could imagine. I'm like, reminds me of when I had to take care of my mom when she got into a car accident. Those were not fun times.
And in other news, I got the new G Fuel flavor that's a collaboration with Sega, Sonic stuff, whatever. Peach Rings is what they're calling. You know, like you can get like the gas station or whatever, that candy. So
Hmm.
far, it's pretty alright.
Sounds better than some of the other game flavored drinks. Like I heard, like the Final Fantasy potion drink was pretty bad.
Yeah.
Now, not sure about like the E tank.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think that one was just more generic than it was bad.
Hmm.
That's what I always heard.
Yeah. Anyway,
And yeah, I also got the Sonic G Fuel Shaker Cup that came with the collector's edition, so yay, one more cup for the collection.
how many cups are there?
A lot. Like, there's only one Sonic cup, but of like various other different styles, there are several.
Of course.
The
Oh,
one
you
thing
can't.
I like about these is the walls are thick enough they don't sweat when they're on my desk, so they make a great desk cup.
Hmm.
So yeah,
Yeah.
that's helpful.
Spares the need for a coaster.
Indeed.
Hmm.
And also keeps it safe from kitties.
Yep.
And yeah, aside from that, not a whole lot's been going on. I did get Batman Arkham Knight because I was gonna play that during topic, but it's sadly I can't stream it and play it at the same time, so that
Yeah.
sucks.
Hmm.
Did you get any of the other Arkham games?
I have a few of them, but they're not downloaded. I didn't have a chance to download any of the other ones.
Hmm.
Do you have Origins Blackgate?
No.
Hmm. I'd say that's a shame, but I've actually played that game. Anyway, uh, right, moving on.
Yep.
Galax, you're up.
Well, my parents are back, so I've had a chance to play with the Hanafuda cards that I picked up with them, and that's been fun. Also, I got to hang out with one of my friends recently. We decided that it's safe enough to do occasionally, as long as we don't like go out places really. So that's been nice. The rerun Chicken and Egg Splatfest was fun, but unfortunately, Chicken won again. I think it's more interesting if the other team wins that than won the first time. Not much else video game wise. Still playing, doing some occasional chores in Pokemon Sword and playing through Breath of the Wild. Plus trying to. Oh, actually, while I was with my friend, we did manage to play not the game we're reviewing this week, but some for the future that are multiplayer. So I can at least say I tried it. So that was good.
Oh yeah, I know the one you're talking about.
But yeah, not super anything else that I can think of. Mostly getting used to my parents being home again, because while it's nice to have other people in the house, there are also some things that excuse me, there are also some things you get used to that it's nice to not have to worry about other people being around for.
Right, Twilight, your go.
All right. Well, first of all, I have moved from a mask to a face shield at work now.
Man.
Yeah, this is much more preferable because the mask I have, the two masks I've been wearing recently, which are some of the Humana masks, they're miserable to wear. They seem thicker and makes it more difficult to breathe in them. But luckily, a friend of my mother's who has a relative who have been selling face shields that he's been ordering offered me two, and I happily accepted them, and been wearing this one. Well, yeah, the one I started with. I got the other one a little bit later this week, Tuesday to be precise. Anyway, yeah, it's been a lot better. Don't have to worry about my glasses fogging up and no breathing issues. So what else? Still trying to make the cat that I've pretty much adopted accept me. Poor thing's skittish. Apparently, used to people running it off. And yeah, it's kind of a little used to me. It's not afraid to get on the porch while I'm out there now. But any sudden movements causes the poor thing to run away. But I give it some time. Let's see here. What else? Yeah, and me and my friend have been doing co-op playthroughs of the third Saints Row game and the fourth one. Have pretty much given up on the fourth because it keeps crashing on his end maybe like every 15 minutes, and so we've given up on it for now. See if we can figure out anything later on, but it's not looking good. And I've been playing a game for this Sunday, and that's about it.
All right, I guess it's my go then. Let's see. Well, met up with my brother and his family on Thursday. It's been about a year and a half since I last saw him, so that was sort of nice. It's just I'm not used to children. And children are a harrowing experience. I'm not interested in having children. But, they got in safely, and they've got all their stuff moved in, but they've had to, at least the stuff that they brought, they still have a lot of stuff in Iowa, and, it's in a storage locker, and they don't really know how they're going to get it from Iowa to Florida, since apparently shipping all that would cost about $1,500.
Fine.
Yeah. So, like, even in a storage locker over a year, that's like $1,200. So, still,
they do make. I'm thinking of a specific like company of storage locker. I think that's like designed to be transported, but that's still not cheap. I'm sure.
No, it's not a huge priority for them right now, though, since they've got, they've got all their shit moved in, but they've still got to, they started up the new job and, getting the kids ready for schooling. They're not sending them to school because pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
But it's all the little things you have to do after a move as well. Getting a new license plate, updating all your information.
Remember what house you live in.
Yeah, like that actually takes a bit of time to get used to.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I've moved enough to know these things. But, at the very least, they're all situated and getting sorted. And, probably going to hear from them next during the holidays because, well, once again, they're extremely busy getting used to the new digs. So, which is fine by me because let's just say my brother is prone to chaos. I can leave it at that. And it's a long story that I really don't want to recount. Really stories. But anyway, that's about it for my news. So merrily we shall roll along to the interview portion of the broadcast. And joining us this week is our good friend John from MangaGamer.
Hello, it's good to be back again.
As always. All right, let's see. I think I know exactly where to start, and that's with the whole Bokuten controversy that ravaged about a month ago, earlier in the month.
Yeah, there was earlier in the month. Steam had pulled Bokuten without notice. They eventually got to us and claimed that they removed it because adult content was added, which was a complete lie. But then they turned around and said, oh no, there's content in the build, and you couldn't access that without hacking the build. And I've never known Steam to go that far, but we corrected it, and it was eventually able to get put back up on Steam. But that was a whole debacle spawned by Steam's mistakes.
I'm like, at least it got resolved.
Yeah, I mean, that's better because we still have not seen Raidens of Michael published on Steam, even though that's available on GOG.
From what I hear, that's not coming back.
I don't think so.
I'm like...
I mean, there's no reason for it to continue to be disallowed on Steam, because obviously it's perfectly fine on GOG, but
I can't exactly agree with that either, but that's more a basis of localities. I'm like, it's just, from what I understand from Steam's perspective, it's a lot to do with underage depictions of sexual content, and it is
with a very wide definition of sexual content.
Yeah, it is also important to note GOG and
Steam version are the non-adult version of Maidens of Michael.
Well, it's more a basis of localities. Steam is based in California. GOG is based in Cyprus. So there's going to be a bit of a difference in terms of those kinds of laws. I don't know.
That said, it's still not exactly good pool to say yes, this is okay, and then turn around and say no, that wasn't actually
right. I'm just saying,
Well, again, because with that title, the Steam version is not the adult version of the game, so there isn't sexual relationships between the characters to begin with.
Yeah.
So their claims about that are again false.
I'm
Even
like,
if they want to, however much they want to pretend they're in the right, they're not.
Well, I'm like, the clampdown's gotten more.
Yeah.
So, because the Steam forums have banned linking to external content because of not necessarily your outfit, but
that's probably more of the Epic Games thing of we're not
yes,
actually gonna put our game on Steam, but hey, you can have a link to our Epic.
Well, yes, Epic Games is a part of that as well, but it's a
Steam policy. You were never allowed to link to a storefront that wasn't Steam. That's always been since we first started working with Steam, and we had issues with that before because that was one of the things. Like when we were doing adult patches through Steam for a while, the idea like Steam was like, yes, you can have adult patches, and so like okay. So we will link to them in the forums, and that would go to our website, and Steam would be like, oh, no, you can't link to another storefront that's not Steam. But fans could put up the links to those adult patches. Yeah. So that was weird. But it's like, and again, this goes back to Steam being completely incapable of consistently enforcing any policy they decide they want to have, because by that same standard, any indie developer that like links to their Patreon or any other place where they're, getting money for their product from is also not allowed under the same, verbal written description of that policy. So you shouldn't be having any of these games on Steam that are like, support us on Patreon, because that's not allowed. But Steam selectively decides to enforce it for some and not others.
Well, like I said, this is getting a lot less selective, and as my colleague pointed out, that has a lot to do with the Epic Game Store. Like, I've also heard, the adult patches were becoming a real problem as well, but, blame Epic Games for that one, or praise them, or what have you. Apparently Valve was just getting tired of not just the Steam forums being linked to the Epic Games Store, but the Steam forums being used as de facto tech support. But that's getting off track here.
I thought de facto tech support would be what they're freaking for.
Yeah, that's what I've been seeing most often in the Steam forums.
Hello, I cannot get this game to work or get past this part of this game. Why, hello, I have played this game, and my experience says that you should try this.
I know, but Epic Games says that's not important. This is getting off track here. So, at the very least, the Bo-Katan controversy has been settled, and hopefully will be settled. But with these things, can never be
stay settled.
Anyway, and that can propel us forward to what we're talking about here tonight, and that's a visual novel called Room Number 9.
Yes. Which is much more explicit and graphic than Bo-Katan is.
But,
not to be confused with Mighty Number 9, not to be confused with 9 persons, 9 hours, 9 persons, 9 doors. 9 is a popular number is what I'm getting at here.
Right. Well, that is a that is a very different visual novel.
Uh-huh.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
I'm like, I suppose the first question is what is the room number 9 that is which in the game, if it is in existence?
So the basic premise of Room Number 9, and this is very much an adult psychological horror story. 2 best friends, Daichi and Seiji, are planning to take a vacation trip to Okinawa because, if I remember correctly, the one has a spare ticket because his girlfriend left him. And so they're going to take this trip together to make use of the tickets that are already bought. But once they get there, they end up being kidnapped and forced into basically this hotel room where they're being forced to participate in a quote-unquote scientific study. And of course, the title Room Number 9 comes from the fact that they are trapped in Room Number 9 in this hotel. And so throughout the course of the
Not
story...
too large of a hotel, then, probably.
The numbers go up much higher. This just happens to be the one that they're in, because
Okay.
they do... this early on, the VN does sort of show you that there are other people trapped in the same situation, trapped in other rooms in this hotel, going through the same experience that they are.
Maybe in Japan the convention is different, because usually you only get a single-digit number if there aren't like multiple floors or whatever.
They're like
I said, maybe it's different in Japan. I don't know.
It's probably not all that important.
Yeah.
Anyway, so this is a yaoi game, right?
Yes. So this is definitely a game for fans of yaoi and fans of BL, because it follows, again, the two main characters. But it is worth pointing out that these two men are not gay. They are both straight, but they are put in this situation and trapped in this room where they are forced to decide to do either something violent or something sexual to the other one of them has to do it to the other person. So these are not gay men, but they're very much forced to do either violent or gay acts. As the situation they're in, the idea is that they have to earn 100 points in order to escape from the room and go back to their lives. And every time they complete one of these violent or sexual acts that they are allowed to choose from, they earn so many points. And they can either sit there and sort of hold on to the points, or they can also spend the points on luxuries like having access to TV or a treadmill to make their stay a little less terrible.
Well, there's a lot to unpack here. I'm not going to lie. Oh, let's see. Well, I suppose the point system is that is a game mechanic, correct?
So it's in terms of player experience, it's much more your standard visual novel. There's several conversation choices you make that will determine how the story and the routes progress, but it's not like Euphoria where you're choosing who you what act or who you do things to each time. So that is what the acts that the characters choose to do is actually set sort of indirectly by your choices that you make in the conversations rather than being directly player choice.
And now you mentioned the explicitness of this game. Is that just in the text, or is there any sort of visual representation of, the torture?
Oh, there is absolutely visual representations. Parade, the engine has options so that you can sort of turn the visual displays off to some extent. Like if you turn gore off, it will automatically replace some of the CGs with, less gory versions and more censored black marks over. Because for example, there's one scene where one of the violent options that they choose to do is to make a long, deep incision into the other guy's arm.
Ugh.
And so
they not talk about that. That's one of the things that triggers me fainting, or not fainting, but almost fainting.
My apologies.
It's okay. No, we should be there as long as we don't dwell on it.
Yeah.
So don't dwell on it.
Okay. Anyway, I'm so that some of that can be turned off, is what you're saying.
Yeah. So if you turn the gore off, the text will still be there, but the visual depictions will be reduced.
Make a note of that, Gollix.
It doesn't matter. Text is the first thing that ever set me off on this.
I see. Still,
Yeah.
Anyway, geez. So, like I said, there's just a lot going on here. most of it is from the movie Saw, is what I'm getting. Like,
it's like when we were marketing Euphoria, we very much easily compared it to that, and it is along that lines of psychological horror of it's people trapped in these circumstance where you are forced to do terrible things in order to survive. Like obviously, in there, like there's some sense that like the two characters are actively choosing which things to do to each other, but only because if they don't do anything, they're trapped there. So
I actually
that sort of dubious consent.
Right, though I actually do have a question about that, and that is it all forced? That is to say, is there an option for you to be a sadist? For one of the characters to revel and enjoy the infliction of pain?
Not so much in that sense of you like actively choosing as the player to be sadistic. But so room number 9, there are 3 main routes the story takes, and along each of those routes there's a couple of different bad ends you can get to based on your choices. But so there's the one main route where the characters do manage to escape and maintain their friendship. There's one route where Daiichi is sort of the first one to break and decides to sort of lean into the negative self-concept he has, where that he's like destined to be this abusive asshole because his parents were, and so that idea, that sort of negative aspect of like, no matter what I do, I'm going to be like this because I get it from my parents. And if your decisions lead you down that route, you sort of start to see him leaning into that negative aspect of his personality more. Whereas, and then sort of the third route is the one where Seiji is the one to mentally break first and sort of give up on trying to leave and indulging in what is happening to them, and that sort of basically like giving in to that sort of despair and just trying to make the best out of an awful situation.
Sounds like it. I'm guessing conversely, there's no option to not inflict pain and torment. Like, there's no way to get out of, some, because that sounds like the overall point of the game.
Well, I mean, you cannot play the game.
Right.
Yeah.
Right, but I'm assuming that the people who would buy this are probably like buying into this, let's say, like, or at the very least, I hope there are some trigger warnings here, because this is, this sounds, disturbing. There's no way around it. Like, I understand that's the intention, but it's still disturbing.
Yeah, and I mean, we do have the content warning on our website. The content warning, is on Steam, and this is very much available on Steam, as is all the adult content present. Nothing cut, nothing censored or edited.
Thought about the pure violence of the game, but how explicit is this in sexual terms?
Oh yeah, some of the obviously one of the early sexual options that they're forced to choose between is whether or not to give the one guy a blowjob, and it does go to full intercourse later on, especially if you go down that path.
Right, and I'm assuming that there's no real beating around the bush here, that the depictions here are, let's say, sexual assaulty.
Yeah, like I said, it's kind of, at best, it's kind of a dubious consent situation, because it's like, on the one hand, yes, both partners involved are agreeing to choose to do this act together, but the reason they're making that choice is because they're forced to choose that or something terribly violent.
Hmm.
So it's very, like I said, it's definitely that gray line where, yeah, and that's, of course, obviously that's one of the things that you kind of expect with a lot of psychological horror stories, this one or not, where it is all about that sort of examination of, what are you willing to do in extreme situations, and what does that do to the people involved who have to make those choices.
Hmm. And now, what about the guy instituting all of this? Like, how much can you tell us about him without like going into spoilers? Like who is Jigsaw in this situation?
I don't think you ever find out. It's like very much like Euphoria and like Saw, where it's the interactions they have are very much with computer terminals, automated voices. So you very much don't get to see like you said, the jigsaw behind it all.
Probably saving that for the sequel or sequels. Now, if we're going along the Saw lines.
Yeah, the focus is much more on the two characters that are put through this.
Hmm. And how many endings are there in the game?
So like I mentioned before, there's the three main routes, and then there's several sort of bad ends you can get along the way to those three.
Sounds pretty standard in terms of visual novel routes. And what does this room number 9 have in terms of production values? Is there full voice acting? Is there CG? Like full on CG cutscenes?
Yeah, so there's full on CG, there's full on voice acting. Room number 9 it's developed by Parade, which is the same studio that made our other Bayel or Yaoi title No Thank You. They're the sister company of Clock Up, who's done Euphoria, Eroge. So you can expect the same production values from number 9 as you would from any of those titles.
Right. Well, I'll see if my colleagues here have any other questions about room number 9.
I think I'm good.
I'm good.
Okay. So moving forward, so what's upcoming from MangaGamer, for the fall season?
Yeah. So September 3rd, we will be releasing Wanyan a la mode. And this is very much more of a cutesy, romantic, sex-heavy game focused on enjoying cat girls and dog girls in a patissiere setting. So expect plenty of desserts and whipped cream.
Like, I'm getting a picture of what this could entail. A few pictures, some more explicit than others, like, let's say. I'm guessing this one is MangaGamer only?
Yes. Wanyan a la mode will be available only on MangaGamer.com.
Mm-hmm. And have you finished up the Higurashi series yet?
We did release the 8th chapter a while back.
Mm-hmm.
We do still have the Ray chapters, which are sort of side stories, and then the Ho chapters, which were more recently written side stories. So those are still in the works, to be coming out later. But the essential story from start to beginning, which is chapter 1 through 8, is completely released and available on MangaGamer and on Steam.
Okay. And in terms of your next set of announcements, where's that occurring?
We were originally planning to have our announcements at Anime New York, but that was very recently canceled. So we are currently in the stages of replanning our next announcement.
Well, that's unfortunate. But
What you're gonna do, COVID?
I'm like, yeah, believe me, I've heard this sentimentality from pretty much everyone I've talked to in the industry. Like
yeah. So we'll probably have another digital announcement like we did in the summer. Will probably be sometime in the fall. Don't know if we'll time it for exactly Anime New York or if we'll do it earlier yet. Like I said, we're still in the planning stages for that.
Right then. So anything else to announce or speak about at this stage?
We do also have Nyan Cafe. We released that just in last month in July. If you haven't tried that out, it's by the same developers responsible for Wanyan a la Mode. So if you want to enjoy, a cutesy, sexy story with some cat girls, definitely recommend that to people. And other than that, continue to follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and we will have more announcements there about our upcoming titles, progress on how projects are coming along, and people can ask us questions and chat away.
All right then. So I'd like to have you back on the program, say October 28th, if that's all doable.
That should be good.
All right. And so until then, John, as always, it's lovely having you on the program. Granted, I'm not going to lie, talking about room number 9 here was kind of discomforting, but I get that's also the point.
Yeah, that's the point. Like, you're not necessarily supposed to be excited over something like Saw. You're supposed to enjoy the depth and what it contributes in that sense of sort of literature.
Right. So, if you're game to play room number 9, it's currently available on Steam and MangaGamer. How much is it going for?
It is going for $29.95.
All right. So, once again, if you are so inclined and can deal with the content, be sure to pick it up today. And with that, Petty, play us to the next segment. All right. So, welcome to the topic of discussion. This week, we are talking about the Batman Arkham series. Mainly because the DC Fandom was this past weekend, and they unveiled the successors to the Batman Arkham games. The Suicide Squad kills the Justice League, and Gotham Knights. Suicide Squad is Rocksteady's next game, and Gotham Knights is being developed by WB Games Montreal. And both of these developers had a hand in creating the Batman games. Now, principally Rocksteady, they were the lead developer or the developer behind most of the Arkham games, with WB Montreal being the developer of the Arkham Origins title. There's actually a couple of Arkham Origins games, but we'll get into that in a little bit. But if you haven't played the Batman Arkham games, first of all, that's actually kind of an impressive feat given how popular the titles have been.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not even much of a Batman fan. I've played them.
Right. I suppose also to contextualize, say, Batman Arkham Asylum. So before this game came onto the scene, Batman had a pretty checkered history when it came to video games.
Mm-hmm.
He's
light, yes.
Well, that is to say, his video games have ranged the gamut from great to piss awful. I'm like, you do have luminaries like the NES Batman game, the Super NES Batman animated series, and the Genesis animated series game. But on the inverse, you have shit like the Genesis Batman Returns game, the god awful Batman Forever.
Oh god.
Yeah.
I thought it was a war crime to mention that game.
My point is, you certainly got a lot of Batman. Like, Batman is no stranger to video games, but it depends on the developer.
Mhm.
But I can't say that Batman was a main event AAA level property before this. Probably the last time that happened was the 16-bit era. And Batman had games get released in the sixth generation as well. Ubisoft did some Batman games that were all right, and there was also the downright abysmal Batman Dark Tomorrow. Less said about that, the better.
Mhm.
My point is, Batman was still around, but wasn't really treated the way Arkham Asylum was. That is to say, this isn't just a Batman video game. It's probably the first time well, maybe not the first time, but it's one of the first times that Batman is being not treated as a tie-in. Even the good Batman games beforehand were, let's attack. They're doing a Batman movie. Let's release some video games, or it's tied into the animated series. Arkham Asylum. This is the thing that got tie-ins. Like there's a Batman Arkham Asylum tie-in comic series,
Mhm.
and some other merchandise. But the point is, there's no Arkham Asylum movie.
Yeah.
And they just decided to stuff in Batman. The other reason is, Batman Arkham Asylum for its time was considered to be revolutionary. Specifically the combat system. Once again, it's not just if you've played Batman Arkham Asylum or any of the Arkham games. If you've played like a superhero action game in the past decade, you've encountered the Arkham Asylum combat. Because guess what? Like Spider-Man was fond of this combat system.
Mhm.
Not just like the Activision ones either. The new Spider-Man from Insomniac borrows a lot from the Arkham Asylum combat system. Adds some Spider-Man flavor to it, no doubt, but Arkham Asylum really did define like third-person combat with hordes of enemies this past decade. Though that does seem to be waning, because jumping up to Gotham Knights, Gotham Knights isn't using the Arkham combat. It's got more traditional combat mechanics. Now, I'm not sure if that's going to apply with the Suicide Squad game. I don't know exactly why Gotham Knights is taking that track. It could be because it's not a Batman title; it's a Bat Family title, or maybe it's a developer thing. Although, once again, Arkham Origins used the same kind of combat system, and the combat system is one of the defining traits of the Arkham games. The other is being actually managing to balance stealth and action. Let me tell you, that's not an easy thing to do. As somebody who has been forced to play stealth sections in otherwise action games, otherwise, why the fuck was that in Wind Waker? Just why was I doing stealth sections in Wind Waker? I know the answer was actually
it's because it's cute.
the answer was because of fucking Splinter Cell, but just forced stealth in pure action games are, I get what they were going for. Maybe like they were trying to break up the pace of things, but it's like honestly, stealth sections like this break up the pace too much. Usually.
I would also say that the detective mode pretty much defined how
right
special vision things would work.
Yeah, detective vision, and the thing is, all of these gameplay elements were also done in the service of who you're playing as. You're playing as Batman, and nothing in the Arkham games comes across as Batman wouldn't do this. At least in terms of mechanics. Tone is a different thing because the Arkham games do fall on the grittier end of the Batman spectrum. Not gonna lie, wasn't a fan of some of the depictions of Batman in the Arkham games, like Arkham Origins especially. Arkham Origins, he's basically he's basically a brutal fascist. Like, he doesn't hesitate to break bones, punch people out. Batman's always been dubious about, let's say, constitutional rights, but some of the Arkham games are, this is coming close to him like really enjoying breaking people, and also this is the year of 2020. Like, I don't know if you've noticed, but this kind of shit is more problematic now than it was probably back then. Although, let's just say real world police brutality was going on even when these games were being made.
Oh yeah, of course.
But it
wasn't as much of an organized people getting mad about it.
Right.
Yeah, they don't have a spotlight on it yet.
Well, yeah, it's it's a conversation that I suspect that we would be having about the Arkham games if the Arkham games were new or being still made. And I suppose like one of the core defenses is Batman is a vigilante, and that's kind of been one of the more defining modern interpretations of Batman. Like, he's not really on the cop side, although with the Arkham games, with most of them, but like Arkham Asylum, the relationship has been established. It's Arkham Origins that's really the Batman year 1, year 2, the cops can't trust this guy storyline. But yeah, in terms of detective vision, super useful. Also, one of the the core complaints is it's too useful.
There's often not a ton of reason to not be in detective vision mode.
I believe one commentator put it this way: it's like you're playing with Batman and the Argonauts.
It does make it a little harder to see what you're doing.
That's more like, you never saw Jason and the Argonauts, did you?
No, I don't think so.
Yeah. Famous for stop motion skeletons.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Because
it's
right.
like,
Yeah, I was just saying, like, in terms of reasons not to, that's the only one I can really think of.
Yeah. Now, in terms of changes, so Batman Arkham Asylum is probably, like, it's the most confined of the bunch. And really the only one that, that actually has to do with Arkham. Really only the first two games have anything to do with the actual Arkham. in
Well, Arkham Asylum itself, yeah. Arkham City, they like literally
Arkham City
made
is
a thing designated Arkham City that may include the asylum. I don't know.
it doesn't, because the asylum's still broken from when the
Oh,
Joker,
right.
But that that's that is the conceit of why Arkham City is built in the first place. But my point is, there is an Arkham City there. Arkham Origins is a lie, because guess what? No, there is no Arkham in Origins. The place that you're dealing with is Blackgate, and
the actual prison that they
Right.
do actually have.
Yeah. Right. Time for deep comic lore. So yeah, Arkham Asylum. This is it's in the asylum name. This is the insane asylum where most of Batman's more colorful, the Joker, Two-Face, all them. That's where
The
they
Rogues
get.
Gallery, basically.
The people who can routinely get off from their biggest punishments on their crimes on a relatively legitimate claim of, insanity.
Yeah, this is why the Joker doesn't get killed or he gets executed. In fact, there was actually a comic book storyline about the Joker being found sane and getting the death penalty. But that's neither here nor there. My point is, yeah, Arkham Asylum, that's where all the insane people go. Blackgate, yeah, that's where not just the mafiosos go, but that's where people who are found sane go. That's actually how it works in real life. Not that Blackgate's any better at holding prisoners than Arkham is.
Because remember, most of the problem is that Gotham is really fucking corrupt.
Mm-hmm. And in fact, the whole thing about Blackgate not being a good, secure place for criminals is not the subject of one game, but subject to two games. Batman Arkham Origins and Batman Arkham Origins Blackgate, aka the really forgotten Batman Arkham game. What is Batman Arkham Origins Blackgate? Well, this was the attempt to make Batman a proper 2D Metroidvania. See, the thing about Batman Arkham Asylum is it's basically a 3D Metroidvania style game. A lot of backtracking, a lot of powering up, getting new power-ups to explore new places. If you know what the Metroidvania formula is, it's definitely applicable to Arkham Asylum.
Mm-hmm.
And that got changed with Arkham City going forward. All of the Arkham games since that one are open world to various extents. One of the problems with Arkham Origins is it does a lot of copy and paste from Arkham City. Same map, just, let's say different art direction. Arkham Origins is a lot more blue than City was. Because, the story takes place over the course of Christmas holiday. And, Gotham City is supposed to be in the Northeast.
Yeah.
So it's appropriate. I visited New York in the winter. I do not wish...
It's not great weather.
Yeah. But the thing with Batman Arkham Origins Blackgate is this is a, prim and proper Metroidvania exploratory platformer, whatever terminology we're trying to use to replace Metroidvania this week, which won't take, by the way. That's not really how language works. But yeah, Blackgate is an attempt to take the Arkham formula into 2D with limited success, let's say. The combat doesn't really flow all that well in a 2D space because, I don't know if you've noticed, it was built for large crowds that surround you. And yeah, you can be surrounded, two ways, but it's still, it still feels so limited compared to what you can do in a 3D space here. And
Yeah, the way the games usually work around that is to give you more vertical.
This game isn't particularly vertical, but like it's a very typical Metroidvania title. Like, the art direction's not too, it's not too impressive. This one was made by Armature, which is a bunch of Metroid Prime veterans. Anyway, moving, the last of the Batman games, Arkham Knight. Actually, not the last one, because the last Batman Arkham game is Batman Arkham VR, which is a VR experience thing. Like, I think you can guess what that would be about. But Batman Arkham Knight, the controversial completion to the Arkham series. I say controversial because, well, the PC port was pretty pants. Yeah. Not the first time that happened, but the big thing about Arkham Knight was it's an open world, but now you can drive the Batmobile.
And the Batmobile is for some reason a tank.
Big fans of the Nolan film.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
And yeah, that was pretty much it in terms of gameplay innovations. Arkham City's usually hailed as the best of the bunch. I gotta admit, I didn't get too much into that one, mainly because I didn't really like the Arkham formula in an open world setting. But I don't know, I did gel more with Arkham Origins. I think it's just because I liked the setting more than Batman Arkham City. But yeah, overall, the Batman Arkham series is considered to be a very fine selection of AAA superhero games. As I said, I'm not in love with any of them, but I've played them well enough, and I enjoyed my time. And it will be interesting to see what the Suicide Squad does, because, okay, fucking CG trailers do not tell me anything about a game.
Indeed.
Right?
Yeah, so more on those games in the weeks ahead. Anyway, so that'll about do it for this installment of Fragments of Silicon. The week ahead. Let's see. No Friday. This changes next week if everything goes to plan. But, have more on that on Sunday. Anyway, so coming up on the Sunday reviews, we'll be having reviews for Super Hot Mind Control Delete, which is the standalone expansion pack, or the third Super Hot game, depending on how you want to frame it. I'm not exactly sure how far I'm in. Like, I think I'm in pretty deep. This has been billed as the longest Super Hot experience, and I believe that. I don't necessarily think that's a good thing, but more on that on Sunday. We got Octonauts for the PlayStation 4. It is a shoot-'em-up where you play as a octopus, an Octonaut, if you will. So that's yours, Petty. And we will be having a review of Space Jacked for the Nintendo Switch, which is a platformer tower defense game. That it will be Galix's review. And we will have a review on a game called Title Tribe, which is a god management simulator kind of deal.
Man, managing gods sucks.
No, you are a god.
I know what you mean.
No, you're an actual god, and both of those words are actually vital to the gameplay because you're managing a tribe, and you can kill them with tidal waves.
Yep.
More on that on Sunday. So, until then, I shall wish you good gaming.